Hey there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Ben Olson, that's Nathan Fox. We're the founders of LSATdemon.com and our weekly podcast, Thinking LSAT. We have an email here from Anonymous.
Says, hey demons, I was poking around on the LSAC website and came across this report with some notable data. We've got a link here. Of particular interest to me is the number of people who scored above 175. Oh yeah, we've talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
The number of 175s plus has more than doubled over the past 5 years and now represents 2.32% of test takers compared to 0.98% of test takers in 2019. Yeah, it happened overnight and when COVID happened.
Yep, it did.
The number of elite scorers doubled, or the ratio of elite scorers more than doubled at the same time as COVID. Now, correlation does not mean causation. They could be totally unrelated.
But let's give the numbers here, right? So in 2020, well, in 2019, there were about 600 people who scored between 175 and 180, or not between, but over, or 175 or higher. And then we had 735 people who scored over 175 or higher in 2020. And then in 2021, that number went from 735 to 1,500. So doubled.
Yeah. And it now has stayed up there. 1,300 in 2022, 1,300 in 2023. Yeah, it's more than doubled.
Yeah. And the number of test takers did increase in 2021, if you're thinking about that. And you should be, because it's not just about the numbers going up, it's about the ratio, right? Yeah. But it didn't go up that much. It went up from 60,000 in 2020 to 67 or 68,000 in 2021. So there was a mild increase there. And then in 2022, the number actually dropped back down to 60,000. Yet the number of people who have scored 175 or higher still remains around 1,300. So a very high percentage.
Yeah. What has changed? I think there are three major changes.
Okay.
One, people have the option now to take the test online at home. I think it's possible that puts people in a more comfortable environment, and being in a more comfortable environment. I mean, the old in-person testing was a shit show. Like it really was ugly, you know?
Yeah. It was a challenge itself.
Yeah. I have so many horror stories about waiting outside in some shitty neighborhood, potentially lining up for an hour to be able to even get in the room. Really nervous, fellow students, like the guy who has a whole box of pencils and then knocks the box of pencils off his desk during the test. And there's just pencils falling down, the proctor.
Remember those people who ate food?
Oh, yeah. Well, the proctors. The old man proctor at the front of the room who was like shelling pistachios and eating them noisily during the test, or people chomping on ice, or someone got so nervous that they vomited in the test center and the test continued. Yeah. Everybody's got the smell of vomit filling the room and they're still taking it. Like it was bad, y'all. Like the old in-person testing was not better. Yeah. And so the ability to take it in your damn bedroom, in an environment you control in your pajamas, that's nice. Or not worrying and not looking at the other people, who are doing all this, like people get intimidated by the other people that are there I don't know, like just being more comfortable. That's one. Two, LSAT prep is better now. To the extent that it's delivered online, LSAT prep is better. I used to be just diehard. I'm always going to be a classroom teacher. I love teaching in the classroom. I still do. I mean, I would love to teach in the classroom, but I know that it would be worse for my students. Everybody would have to waste a ton of time commuting to the live classroom. The live classroom had same thing, distractions, people talking in the class, just all kinds of nonsense going on in the, having to take bathroom breaks and food breaks. And it's a waste of time to get together for a live LSAT class. In LSAT Demon Live, teaching in Zoom, I show up 1 minute before my class, and when my class is over, I'm back home again. Yeah. And that's true of all my students. And they can put their camera off and put themselves on mute and use the bathroom, get a snack, do whatever they need to do during class. There's just it's so much less dead weight of time. And so LSAT prep is better now. That could be one reason why. I mean, how many of those we have a lot of 175 plus scorers.
Yeah.
I wonder how many of those are ours. It's kind of a lot of them, really.
Yeah.
Like we have probably a couple hundred people every year who use LSAT Demon and end up scoring 175 or higher.
Mm-hmm.
So part of it is us kicking ass. The third thing is they changed the balance of the actual law school admission test.
Yep.
And this is the thing that shockingly to me, no one talks about. But games is now worth more. And games is the easiest section to perfect. Games used to be 25% of the test. Games is now 33% of the test because they dropped a section of logical reasoning. People can perfect logical reasoning as well, but it's so easy. I shouldn't say easy, but it's just so much more reliable that you can perfect your logic games. And I think that there are a significantly higher percentage of people now who are walking into the test going, well, I know that I'm going to score perfect on the games. And games is now worth 1/3 of my score.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe slightly less than 1/3 because it's not. But, 1/3 of your time on the test is going to be spent on that game section. And that's the section that you're most likely to score perfectly on.
Yeah.
And so the balance of the test has changed slightly away from the not quite as reliable logical reasoning to the entirely reliable logic games. Mm-hmm. And how many of those people, Ben, if 1352 this last year scored 175 or higher, how many of those people do you think scored perfect on their games?
Probably almost all of them.
Yeah.
There might be a few who got a point wrong.
like 12 or like 1,300 plus out of the 1,352.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like almost all those people are scoring perfect on the logic games.
Yep.
So I don't know. Can you think of anything else? I got 3 of them. Taking the test at home makes people more comfortable. Prepping online, especially with LSAT Demon, is just better.
Mm-hmm.
Third, they changed the balance of the test without making any announcement whatsoever and made games a bigger part of the score.
Yeah, well, those 3 are huge. I would add to the prep part, I mean, the Demon existed right before COVID, but it really took off right during COVID because of COVID. And drilling, which allows people to work on questions that are right at or slightly above their skill level, I think is a game changer.
Yeah.
That's how everything works. You don't go into the gym and pick up the heaviest weight in the gym and then make any progress with that, or, pick up the lightest weight and do like 1,000. I mean,
That's funny. Yeah, because that is what people were doing in the before times. I mean, before the Demon existed, like, do you remember that book that's like the hardest LR questions or whatever? And that is like walking into the gym and just going straight to the 200-pound dumbbells and trying to lift those things, And it's like, well, for you, first day in the gym, maybe not those ones. Maybe these other ones. And the Demon does that automatically. The Demon just looks at your abilities and adjusts it, over time and gives you that just right challenge. And that could be a big part of it too. Yeah. I mean, because we've seen it too. We've seen it in our students where we used to be shocked by a 20-point improvement was like, wow, you improved by 20 points. That's awesome. And we saw it happen from time to time. Now we're like expecting people to get 20 points and we're not that surprised when people make 30 points anymore.
Yeah.
And 30 points used to be literally the highest I had ever seen.
Well, now 40's the new 30, right? Because
we have people knocking on the door of 40-point improvements now.
Yep, and people talk about it in Slack, and you go, "Wow, are they really going to do it? Holy shit!" Yeah. That was what 30 was like before. Yep.
And that has been happening too. And wow. And interestingly, that's on practice test scores too. So it's not to do with like a change in the scoring scale. It's not to do with them making the test easier. Mm-hmm. It's with that's like real performance on the test. Oh, on the old practice test.
The old practice test now though, right? We're scoring them based on the new weighted.
So games does have something to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Games, the games thing has, I bet, a lot to do with it.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks for writing in. That was a great question. Email daily@lsatdemon.com if you'd like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.